The instant Karen poked her finger at my boarding pass and yelled that my first-class seat belonged to her, I realized this flight was heading straight into an unforgettable confrontation. Airports already test everyone's patience, but this woman strode in as if her sole purpose was to ruin somebody's day, and that somebody turned out to be me. She leaned closer, her perfume overpowering, her tone even more cutting. "Gate agents never mess up with me," she snarled. "That seat is mine. Get out of it before I summon someone important." All around us, chatter faded away. Travelers paused mid-sip of their coffee and fiddled with their earbuds, pretending not to notice, while quietly relishing the unfolding spectacle. I raised my boarding pass firmly, even as warmth flooded my cheeks. "Row 2," I stated calmly. "First class, fully paid and verified." Karen lunged for the ticket, but I withdrew it just in time. Her eyes squinted, mouth twisting into that familiar smug grin worn by those who appoint themselves as ultimate authorities. "Oh, come on. People like you are always gaming the system. I contribute to this airline's charity every year. I'm basically part of the family." Soft wave of murmurs spread through the lounge. Even the employees behind the counter peeked over, obviously preparing for the impending outburst. I had no intention of debating endlessly with her. Instead, I motioned toward the gate podium. "If you're so certain, let's verify it right now." She charged forward like a victorious commander, her heels echoing sharply against the floor like rapid fire. I trailed behind, not eager for the clash, but determined not to let her fabricate a tale in my absence. The gate agent, a young woman whose name tag read Elena, looked up and tensed instantly as Karen slapped her boarding pass onto the counter. "This man is occupying my first-class seat," Karen announced. "Corrected immediately." Elena eyed me briefly, then Karen's document, before returning her attention to the monitor. Her hands danced quickly over the keys, reviewing the passenger manifest. At last, she sighed and shook her head. "Ma'am, your ticket shows row 23C. That's the economy." The whole lounge appeared to freeze in anticipation. Karen's cheeks flushed deep red. She exploded. "That's absurd. I always travel first class. I personally know the manager here." Yet Elena remained unflinching. She merely pointed at the display. "It's unmistakable. Your booking is an economy. His seat is secured." For the first moment, Karen wavered, but rather than conceding, she pointed accusingly at me once more, and whispered venomously, "This isn't finished." Karen stormed off from the counter, grumbling about legal action and useless employees, but I could tell she was plotting. Individuals like her refuse to accept loss. They simply regroup for the next assault. Predictably, when boarding commenced, she pushed aggressively to the front of the queue, brandishing her economy ticket as if it granted special access. "Move aside," she barked at a family in front of her. "I'm a priority passenger." The gate agent, Elena, stood firm. "Ma'am, first class boards initially, then our elite members, followed by economy. Please wait for your turn." Karen's laughter rang empty, fragile, like glass on the verge of shattering. "Don't you recognize who I am?" she challenged. But before Elena could reply, Karen whirled toward me. I had just presented my boarding pass when she whispered, "Savor your seat for now. I'll get you removed mid-air." I chose not to reply. Silence seemed wiser than feeding her performance. Nevertheless, her threat echoed as I took my place into the plush leather cushion, the champagne extended by the cabin crew. It ought to have been soothing. But from across the aisle, Karen's stares stabbed like knives. She had somehow sneaked aboard ahead of schedule, offering the staff a syrupy grin that allowed her to bypass checks amid the chaos. When the legitimate occupant of to-be appeared, a gentleman in a sharp suit, Karen seized her opportunity. She leaped up and proclaimed, "Oh, finally, you're here." They accidentally gave away my seat, but no worries. I'll sort it out. She dropped heavily into to-be before he could react. The man stared, bewildered. This is my assigned spot." Karen placed a hand over her heart, feigning astonishment. "Oh, darling, they obviously misprinted yours. Mine reads 2B. The flight attendant rushed over. Upon examining both documents, the facts were undeniable. Karen's remained economy. She had intruded where she had no right. "Ma'am," the attendant stated resolutely, "you must return to your designated seat." Karen crossed her arms defiantly. "I'm staying put. If you want me gone, you'll need to force me." The cabin hummed with hushed comments. Travelers reached for their phones, prepared to capture the drama. I attempted to gaze out the window, yet part of me remained transfixed. It resembled observing a tempest ripping through the horizon. You knew disaster loomed, but you couldn't avert your eyes. The captain emerged from the cockpit then, imposing yet composed, his voice even. "Is there an issue here?" he inquired. Karen perked up, plastering on her artificial smile. "Yes, Captain. This man took my first-class seat." The captain regarded Karen for an extended pause, then shifted his gaze to me and the suited traveler. "And me." Without haste, he accepted the tickets from the flight attendant. His focus shifted from Karen's economy voucher to our distinctly marked first-class documents. The quiet hung thick, interrupted solely by the faint drone of the engines as the aircraft readied for takeoff. "Ma'am," the captain stated calmly, "your designated seat is in row 23C. You are presently occupying a seat that belongs to another passenger." Karen let out a tense laugh, her voice unsteady, yet projecting loudly enough for the entire cabin to catch it. "Captain, I believe there's been an error. I've been flying with this airline for years. I always travel in first class. We can certainly resolve this without humiliating me in front of everyone." She gestured dismissively toward me and the gentleman and me next to me, as though we were mere supporting actors in her personal production. The captain's face remained impassive. "There is no error. You have two choices. Return to your assigned economy seat or deplane immediately." Soft gasps and murmurs spread throughout the cabin. A mother bent toward her teenage son to murmur something, while he already held his phone steady, filming the entire exchange. Karen's face turned a vivid scarlet. Rather than yielding, she lifted her chin proudly. "This airline is shameful," she retorted sharply. "You cannot treat me like an ordinary traveler. I know the regional director on a personal level. If you fail to correct this, I'll ensure you lose your position." The captain showed no reaction. His tone stayed composed, yet it held unmistakable authority. "Flight attendants, please reach out to the gate." Karen's confidence faltered. "What? You're actually summoning security over a minor seating confusion?" "It is not a confusion," the captain answered. "It is a deliberate refusal to follow crew directives. That constitutes a breach of federal aviation rules." The businessman beside me reclined slightly, whispering under his breath, "Unbelievable." I remained quiet, though inwardly experienced a blend of satisfaction and unease. Satisfaction because Karen was at last facing consequences. Unease because individuals like her seldom surrendered without dragging others into the chaos. Karen attempted one final strategy. Tears. She grasped the captain's sleeve lightly, her voice quivering. "Please, I cannot endure the economy. I suffer from claustrophobia. You truly don't comprehend." The captain carefully but resolutely detached her hand. "Escort her to her proper seat," he instructed. Two flight attendants advanced, but before they could proceed, an announcement crackled over the intercom from the gate area. "Captain Reynolds, your presence is required at the entrance right away." The captain stood taller, his gaze shifting toward the jet bridge. Whatever matter awaited outside appeared pressing. He offered a brief nod to the crew and departed. Karen grinned victoriously, convinced she had prevailed. What unfolded next astonished every person aboard. The cabin filled with hushed guesses as the captain vanished down the jet bridge. Karen settled back arrogantly into the purloined first-class seat, arms folded, like a monarch retaking her domain. "See," she announced in a stage whisper audible to nearby rows. "They cannot lay a hand on me. They require my presence here." Yet only moments later, Elena, the gate agent from before, boarded the aircraft, accompanied by two uniformed airport security officers. The captain followed behind them, his serene demeanor intact. He spoke to the passengers initially, his voice conveying both command and comfort. "Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your understanding. We will push back soon. However, we must first address one remaining matter." Karen's assurance flickered. She straightened abruptly, her eyes flicking nervously among the captain and the officers. "Wait, what's going on? You summoned the authorities for me?" The captain stood firm. He nodded toward the gate agent, who raised a clipboard. "According to policy, when a passenger disregards crew commands and tries to claim another person's seat, they may be denied boarding. To maintain safety and discipline, that is the action we are taking today." The cabin burst into excited murmurs. Phones angled upward, documenting each moment. Karen stammered, her tone piercing. "This is unacceptable. I am a devoted customer. I contribute generously. I'm essentially part of this airline's family." Elena stayed composed, her voice clear and direct. "Ma'am, you have caused delays in boarding, disturbed the first-class section, and ignored 3 distinct directives. You are no longer allowed to fly on this aircraft." One officer moved forward. Karen attempted to melt into the seat, gripping the armrests tightly like a reluctant child. "No, you cannot do this. I merit this seat." She pointed sharply at me again, her voice cracking. "He took it from me," the captain responded steadily. "That gentleman is our relief pilot for this flight. He must equip you first class to rest adequately before taking over controls. You sought to displace him from his required position." The revelation struck like lightning. Sharp intakes of breath swept through the cabin. Karen's mouth dropped open. She stared at me in stunned disbelief, as if I had masterminded her humiliation, but the officers acted without delay. They lifted her from the seat with polite yet unyielding firmness. Her objections diminished as she was guided down the aisle, passing rows of travelers who shook their heads or murmured softly. A handful even offered subdued claps, though most simply appeared thankful. Once the jet bridge door closed behind her, the captain turned to me with a nod. "Thank you for your patience, sir. Have a pleasant flight." I relaxed into my seat at last, the built-up stress finally easing away. Karen had been removed, the departure was secured, and the delicious irony remained. She had insisted on claiming my first-class spot, unaware that I was not merely a traveler but was the off-duty pilot she had nearly succeeded in ejecting from the aircraft. If this tale entertained you, remember to hit that like button. Share your opinions on Karen's actions in the comments, and subscribe to stay updated on future wild stories. Your engagement truly supports the channel's growth.